Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday, the best. I'm gonna say it right now. Hold on. I didn't mean to laugh, but no, this is the best investing show for Latinos out there, hands down. Why? Because we're consistent, number one. Number two, we give you our perspective from a Latino's perspective. And number three, I'm just gonna go ahead and say we got Jeremiah on the call, right? Jeremiah is one of them ones when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to
that point. I was with you up until that point. But yeah.
Come on, bro. Don't play. Nah, I honestly, bro, I gotta give you, and we joke a lot and we laugh and whatnot, but I do gotta give you your flowers because first off, being consistent. Second off, there's a lot of things that you've spoken about on this podcast platform that other people have ended up speaking about later on. And it just shows that we're onto something. It shows that you are doing your due diligence, you're doing your research, and you actually care about what you're talking about, because you're coming on here and you're talking about things that other people are not speaking about. So hats off to you. Thank you. I want to give you your flowers as we're recording. Didn't mean to laugh at the beginning, but we just be joking around sometimes. But that's serious. That's serious.
I appreciate you, bro. I always, and it's funny because you returned it on me this time, because I'm always trying to give you yours, and you always, just look at me like this guy. So no, I appreciate that, bro. I
mean that. So with that being said, we're gonna have a great episode today. We got a couple great topics we're gonna jump into, but before we do that, I just gave him his flowers, but besides that, Jeremiah, how are you feeling today, man? How you doing?
I'm feeling energized, bro. Honestly, because I feel like today's topics, it's something that, well, you're going to talk about it. I'll let you talk about the topics, but I'm excited about today's topics because I feel like we've both been giving flowers to each other, but it's time to give flowers to somebody that's up their game a little bit. So I'll let you talk about it, but I'm excited today. Energized.
Yeah. So, and the people we're talking about specifically are our Latina sisters out there, our Latina women. And we're going to dive into this topic towards the end of the episode. So stay tuned, listen to the whole thing. Long story short, they've been killing it in the investing space, and we want to give them their flowers, and we want to have a conversation about some of the things that they're doing. Also going to talk about a conference that I went to in New York. I was part of a panel called Breaking Into Wealth with other Black and Brown creatives on there, which was phenomenal. So we're going to hit on that. But before we hit on all those topics, man, Jeremiah and I were talking before we hit record, and, he's a leader, entrepreneur. He has a team of people that he's surrounded himself with, right? And I was just curious, man, like what are some things or something recently that you have learned as a business owner, as a leader, as a man? Talk to the people out there, like let us know like some of the things that you've been working through or that you've learned recently.
I would have to say that one of the biggest things that I've learned as far as in business, and you're going to learn different things in different seasons, but one of the biggest things that I've learned is the fact that there's different forms of leadership, and in different seasons you have to morph and adapt to using those forms of leadership. For example, in a certain season, right, a certain time with the people that you're leading or the people in your organization or however, whatever, you may be a little bit softer, a little bit more empathetic, right, listening to them. And that may be the shoulder to lean on, and those things that may be what's needed in that season, right? Because it's a very rough season for the majority of people. Things are going on. And so maybe that tough love isn't the way to go. But then there is a time for that tough love. And when it's time to move into the season of tough love, you have to elevate yourself and be prepared to move into that season. And so I've just been dealing with that recently myself, and just focusing on being in the right season and making sure that I'm tuned in and honed in on the things that's needed from a leader and the way to lead, not only just by example, but also the best way to get the best out of your people. And so that's one thing I've learned in business, or that I've been actually like focusing in on most recently, is being the leader that's needed for that season.
I love that. So let me ask you something. So we love to talk about. We like to use sports as an analogy on this podcast, right? We like to talk about Jeremiah is the MJ guy. I'm a Kobe guy. We like to talk about a bunch of different athletes on here. A couple different leaders that we like, Kobe, Mike. They didn't seem like they had that mindset where it was different seasons to how you communicate with people.
Right.
Do you feel like, and we can go back and forth on this because it could be a bad thing or it could be a good thing. You look at it from a good perspective, like, hey, they were hard on their teammates,
Yeah.
but they won 5-6 championships.
Right.
But on the flip side, maybe they didn't have the best relationship with their teammates. So talk to us about that perspective and maybe like, because I know you study Kobe, MJ.
Yeah.
Is that something that you notice and you're like, yo, I need to maybe like do that a little different? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think, and Chris, you know this, one of the fundamental or baseline books that I read, or that's always been like in my top books, right? And kind of something I live by is Relentless by Tim Grover. Love that book. And it's probably just the basis of like the Mamba mentality. MJ didn't have a name for his, but whatever that was, right? And it's just understanding where that switch is in that shadow self that you move in. And a lot of us, and I'm not saying nowhere near that I'm close to Kobe or Michael. I'm not, but I do identify with their mentality because I live in that realm and like business, right? I'm super intense. I expect the standards I have for people are super, super high because I have them for myself. And, I want excellence. But what I've come to learn is that, in the grand scheme of life, would you rather be, and everybody's different, right? Obviously, Michael and Kobe extremely successful. And thank God I've been super successful. But there's a way to do things and there's a way not to do things. And everyone can choose. But I was thinking, is it Michael and Kobe, or is it more LeBron? And people will say, well, LeBron doesn't, he doesn't have the killer instinct. He didn't win the championships. He's kind of, however, whatever. But in the grand scheme of life, who would you say is a better man? Who would you say more people would want to follow? Who would you actually want to hang around and take some advice from? Now, I think all of us would say we'd sit with Kobe. We'd sit with Mike, obviously, right? But who's more inviting? And I don't think that's a competition either. I think everyone would say LeBron, obviously, right? His teammates seem to have more fun playing with them, those type of things. And so it's a give and go. It's seasons. And that's what I've learned to be. You got to be LeBron sometimes, and you got to make it fun for people. You got to encourage and uplift, right? And then there's other times that you got to be, the Kobe or the Mike. And you got to find, and you have to make sure where that season is. They did it every single season, right? And that cost them. I mean, guys don't, Scotty and Mike don't talk now. And probably a piece of that is some other craziness that's going on. But a lot of it just has to do with Mike's, there's some support and some things. Scotty said he didn't support him in the contract, and so there's some things. And then with Kobe, well, we saw that, right? Kobe was greatness. But at the same time, nobody wants to hang out with Kobe. And so, it's kind of just that the balance. That's really what it is. And understanding in what season you have to do what. Now, we did see Kobe change, though. You saw Mike change as well. I mean, think about it. Mike came into the league. It was just him. He was going to score 60, 70 points. He won scoring titles, did like all that, right? But he didn't win until he started to trust his teammates. Kobe had Shaq. Shaq takes up quite a bit of, but and then you saw in the last two championships, Kobe trusting his teammates, and he had very inferior teammates, right? And that says a lot about him. And so I think they showed a little bit of the season, right? You saw them move into it, maybe just not as much as we think about them being that killer.
100%. And you know what's crazy? Now that you said that, I'm kind of thinking about Braun. And you can kind of argue he's done the same thing, but on the flip.
Yeah.
So maybe towards the tail end of his career, he's not taking as much as the BS. He's only got a couple more years, putting pressure on the front organization. And for the people listening to this is not a sports podcast. It's not that, but the principles, right, that we're talking about, how to communicate with your team members, how to communicate with your family. is what we're speaking on, right? So it's interesting to study these athletes and these different leaders at a high level and see how they're leading their team. And like I said, you can kind of argue that for LeBron toward the end.
I
I,
agree.
I still won't say that he has that like killer like MJ or Mike, but you can
Yeah.
see that he has a lot less, patience for
Sure.
waiting around for a championship or championship caliber team, I should say.
I agree. I agree. I now that you brought it up, I mean, it is true. He's been a lot less jovial these past couple of years and saying, hey, look, it's getting close. We got to. It's like kind of like now or never. And so people do that in their business and in their lives as well, right? I believe that sometimes maybe you start off on the opposite side, and then you learn to move into this space. So it's really just your preference, and it's really just depending upon you and what your season is in your life and who's around you, and that kind of determines which way you move. So
Yeah,
something I've been
love that.
studying. I
Love
think
that.
that's a good analogy, though. All three of them, and the way that they approach the game.
Yeah, I mean it's really fascinating, even to take a step back and look at, okay, not only the players, how they led, but the coaches, a Phil
Yeah,
Jackson or a
sure,
Pat Riley, how
sure.
their leadership style and how they manage these different egos, right?
Yeah.
So interesting stuff. Love it.
And for
Um,
those of you that don't know
yeah,
what we're talking about, go to YouTube and study the names.
yeah,
Just
just
Pat
study the
Riley,
name.
Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, if maybe you're too young, and then of course everyone knows Kobe. Rest in peace.
Yeah, 100%. Transitioning a little bit, I mentioned that if you guys didn't see on Instagram, I was recently in New York at a conference.
Congratulations, by the way, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Congratulations. It is an honor.
yeah.
I felt great for you seeing that. I was proud of you, man. I told you that, and I want to publicly say that I was super proud of you, bro. So congratulations.
100%. I hope that maybe you felt, a little like proud for yourself as well. We're just giving
Of
each other
course,
flowers back and
of
forth on
course.
this episode,
No,
but
I mean, but you got to do that. When
yeah,
someone
yeah,
accomplishes something, your brother accomplishes something, right? That, like you said, that's you up there. It's a representation of yourself. If you can't see yourself and your brother, then there's probably some envy or something behind that. So
mhm,
no, 100%. I'm happy
yeah,
for where we started and where we're going,
yeah,
so for sure.
100%. So, the Futuro conference, I was invited out to moderate one of the panels. Like I said, breaking into wealth. I was on stage with five other entrepreneurs, all completely different industries. Like it was
Yeah.
really fascinating to be up there with everybody. I could have honestly, I only had 45 minutes, but I could have been up there for 2 hours. Like I had hella questions to ask. I really wanted to dive deep, but the response that I got afterwards, everybody said I did good. I don't know if they were just like bigging me up, showing me love, but it's funny. I have to throw this out there. Like immediately, this is just the way I am. Immediately after I got off stage, I went to my wife. I was like, "How did I do? Tell me the truth. Tell me the real." And it's funny because while I was on stage, she was texting me like, "Yo, stop doing this with your mic." So my wife is very much so like she wants me to do good, and she's always looking after me. So shout out to her for looking out. But
Shout out to the
um,
sis, man.
all
Supporting
that,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
all
know
that
you
being
did that because you do that
all the time.
across the board. Across the board, we're gonna talk, bro. Like, and I know you did it because you do it immediately. So I
Yeah,
like, how people say stuff and it's not true. Like, I know you did that.
yeah,
That's
no,
what's up.
100%. But I did ask my wife, and and the thing about it is she tells me the truth. So, and I say all that to say, the audience got some. I got good feedback from the audience that the conversation was good. We had an individual up there that was talking about how she built her wealth with her 9 to 5. We had somebody up there that was speaking about how they pay down their debt and how they leverage not having debt and using that extra capital to invest in their 401k and
Yeah,
invest in index funds and
yeah.
different stocks and whatnot.
Mhm.
We had somebody up there that owns their own tequila brand, their own coffee brand.
Right.
So just really inspiring to be up there and to be around those other entrepreneurs. Great networking opportunity. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is kind of talk about some of the things that I took away from the event. And the biggest thing that I took away from being on stage with these other entrepreneurs and just being in the room is the the power of obsessing over one thing, which was it. Now let me break this down. So my guy Brandon Pena, who is the owner of 787 Coffee, has over 22 locations in New York, Puerto Rico, and all types of places, right?
I assume he's Boricua with the 787.
So he's not, but his
Wow.
I think his business partner is, and the reason why they call it 787 is because they cultivate all their coffee and produce everything in Puerto Rico.
Love.
All the distribution is in Puerto Rico. Everything,
Love.
buying the farmland, everything they hire. The workers are local workers that live in Puerto Rico, so everything is done through Puerto Rico. And his obsession over coffee in itself was just unbelievable to hear him talk about. Like the passion that he has for a coffee bean is just next level. Another individual who is Puerto Rican started Yave Tequila. His obsession over tequila and making the best tequila was just second to none, right? So you have these people over here that are just solely obsessed with this thing and just being the best at it. And it kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation with Mike, Kobe, Phil Jackson being the best at their craft, and even something we're trying to do as well. That was one of the biggest takeaways, obsessing over that one thing and just nothing else. Like the gentleman was like, "Yo, I don't know nothing but coffee. That's it. I don't know nothing but tequila and how to like bring people together and have a good time. This is all I know." And they have clearly succeeded and excelled in their industry doing that.
I think that that's something that you and I have talked about previously with myself. You were like, bro, you got to do it. I was like, nah, this is what we've talked about it. Like, literally, like, bro, I am obsessed about being the most knowledgeable Latino in the financial realm. I am
Mm.
obsessed about that. I hear a lot of people, I hear a lot of things, and like, but I told you, I'm like, I'm obsessed with that. You're like, bro, you gotta chill. I'm like, nah, I'm doing this stuff when it's, when it's not popular, when you spoke to it earlier, but I identify with that. And I know you identify with that with the podcasting because not just that, but even like marketing and building this thing out to creating something. The focusing on being better, like 1%, we always talk about it, than the day before, like that 1% better. For you, it's the marketing and you focus in it. For me, it's the financial. And then we come together and it's just, it's a great mix. I
Right.
think man, that's crazy. I wanted to ask you all that information that you heard and that you learned, because this is something that you're really great at, bro. You do great research and then you ask great, questions that cultivate the conversation. And so with all those different industries, did you find it a little difficult to do that research, like dig into all those different industries and then still find a way to make it, palatable? The
Yeah,
conversation
yeah.
is still, you know what I mean?
So yes and no, because I've like when it comes to one-on-one interviews, I'm gonna kill it every time. Like I am
Yeah.
super confident. There's 5 other people on stage. I think the most difficult part of that was giving everybody playing time,
Hmm.
giving everybody the rock, giving everybody the ball to talk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the way I broke that down is I think I had to break it down from a holistic view and say, okay, what do I want to talk about? We're talking about breaking into wealth. So the first thing I asked everybody on stage was, what does wealth mean to you?
Hmm.
And everybody spoke about like family, like, what it means to them personally, not just the dictionary
Right.
definition, but personally. From there, I wanted to revolve the conversation around, okay, what was your relationship with money and what is it now? So everybody's talking about like, yo, like the traumas they've had or the things that they went through to get to where they're at. All right. So we talked about the relationship. Now let's talk about the mindset needed to receive wealth and to have a successful business and whatnot. And then from there, we give practical steps on how you can get to the bag. So whether it's like, yo, VC funding or getting it out the mud and like scraping up $20,000 for your business or, whatever the case is, how can you get to the bag? So that's how I structured it. And then from there, I just let it flow. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, I wish I had 2 hours on stage with these people, but I would say, again, the hardest part for me was just making sure everybody had some playing time.
That's obviously another reference to being the point guard, right?
Yeah,
On a
100%.
team, on a squad that's full of just, killers, and you got to try to figure
Dogs,
out which,
dogs. Yeah.
who's on tonight, who needs to, so yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I could see that being difficult. I knew you do the research, and I knew like you said, you kill the one-on-ones. And so it was just 5 individual one-on-ones. I like that's kind of how you looked at it, and you gave everybody. So, man, I know you killed it. I saw portions of it that you had posted and stuff, and I was just like, man, I know he's up there
Yeah.
running it.
Yeah, I got to. And you know what? I will say shout out to everybody that came out. You know, it's a beautiful thing when it felt really like a community of people coming together and wanting to learn about wealth. And there was other panels, talking about other things and whatnot, mental health, being a creative and whatnot. My panel is specifically wealth and business. But it's a beautiful thing to see our people coming together. Everybody was pretty much from New York. But like I said, a beautiful thing to see everybody come together as a community and just genuinely want to learn, and just coming up to me afterwards and just asking questions and just asking other people questions, like wanting to know more about what they did. So yeah, man, I was talking to the individual that like ran the whole thing, and he's like, yo, we gotta do more of these things. And like, I'm like, let me know, because I have folks that are ready on go, that are ready to add value, that can really impact the community tremendously.
I love to hear stuff like that, because that's inspiring. Hearing about us coming into a place, and we talked about InvestFest obviously, but it's good to see on our side individually, seeing Latinos being able to come together, gather that information, and hopefully start to implement it. So
Yeah, 100%. Um, let's transition a little bit and hit on the topic that we've been teasing the whole episode.
yeah,
Man, this is Jeremiah sent this to me, and this puts a smile on my face. It makes me happy. 52% of Hispanic and Latina women investors are more confident about their money than 5 years ago. As you guys know, the Hispanic population in the United States has been one of the fastest growing demographics over the past 2 decades. And Hispanic women, their median income annual salary is around $39,000 compared to the median income of a white woman, which is $55,000, which is crazy. But over the past 5 years, Hispanic women, over 52%, have been more confident in their money and investing. And that, to me, to both of us, that's a step in the right direction. I think that's really a testament to the quote I pulled from the article was, the lady said, "Why do we invest?" Because they see it as a way to support their family and support their community and support their friends and whatnot. So Latinas, they have that selfless mindset where they want to help other people, and they're putting that mindset into investing and business and whatnot, which is one of the best places to put it at.
I think that for the most part, of like you said, if you think about a Latin mother, just the love that she gives, the amount of her heart that she has for her children, and just literally fierce lioness, do anything necessary, and now they're just pointing that energy in the direction of actually being able to say, hey, I'm putting something towards the future, not just the care and the love to nurture my children and my grandkids, but actually I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm starting to find those ways to invest in things that we're comfortable in. Now, I will say this. I think that the implementation of social media and where technology is taking it in these amount of
100%.
years, you start to see people that look like you and speak your language, speaking more about wealth and how you can connect that to the relatability, to say that someone looks like me, right? And they're giving examples of how to grow your money, or how to take these things, where to invest in things that are close to home. And so I think that plays a big part of it. The expansion and the growth of social media definitely helps us, because we're on there, but then you start to see people that look like you, instead of other people, right? And so it encourages you to go ahead and to
Mhm.
say that you could do it too.
100%. And it's crazy because I've spoke about this a couple times where, as someone that started the podcast and was looking for people to get on here and looking to like kind of diversify the people we have on the platform, it was easy for me to find Latinas in the financial space. Like the first 20 episodes could have been all Latinas in the financial space. And I'm like, damn, like, where's the guys at? And you've heard me speak about that.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
a podcast I was on, she even asked me, like, yo, where's the guys talking about business and entrepreneurship? There's not nearly as many as women. So it's very fascinating to see the statistics, and we can see it firsthand where we're not going to sit here and say we're the only guys talking about it, but there's not very many of us, not very many Latino men talking about, entrepreneurship and business and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of that has to do with our slow transition into the space. A lot of us are well, when you talk about business, right? A lot of us are in the tertiary, which is like service field of things. We're very hard workers, right?
Yeah.
Latinos we're very hard workers. Now we just have to translate that, into a space of using our brains, work that same amount of energy into the financial space,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a void, I think, that I see. And I do agree. And we've talked about this several times. There's a whole bunch of women that are starting businesses and growing, and now the stats back it up. But we need more Latino men to get into the realm of wealth and financial services and these things, and start to create, more of that growth on the male side, man, which is weird,
Yeah,
right? Because it's kind
it
of
is.
like opposite in other
Yeah,
cultures, but in
100%.
ours, we need the men to come in here and get it
Yeah.
going.
No,
Yeah,
it's very interesting that you say that. This will be one of the last points I bring up is I think as Latino men, we have that mindset where we think we can build wealth physically and with our hands, and
yeah,
wealth is built with your mind. If you look at
correct.
the successful people, the wealthy people, they sit back and they just thinking most of the day, and then they making moves. They're
That's
telling
right.
people to do that, this and that. Well, they're not necessarily out there doing labor work, which I don't want to be insensitive about that,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily where wealth is created at.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's always going to take some mind power, because even if you can construct things with your hands, you still have to have plans to construct those things with your hands, right?
Right.
And then if you grow a business and you're building something that's physical labor, at some point you have to scale it. You have to learn how to scale and how to apply business principles to grow that company. And so at the end of the day, someone's going to have some type of mindset or growth within their development, in their mind, or else you'll just stay where you're at. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that we don't do that either, but it's all about like legitimizing it, getting into the spaces, and then not only accomplishing whatever we start to accomplish as Latino men, but also sharing that knowledge, because the
Mm-hmm.
women are always sharing. I mean, your
Always.
interviews, right, have been majority women, and they're in the space and they're willing to share. And when they get intimate, they tell what their life, and then they come and they give clues, tell you the books, and if they're not writing them themselves, right? And so you see all these different things, and they're giving that information. So we also have to get in here and then share and bring our brothers up.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Love that. Anything else on that topic before we wrap it up?
No, like we said, we want to make sure that we give the flowers to our Latino women that are out here representing
Mm-hmm.
super strong,
Salute, salute.
fierce out here, conquering, and just continue to do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, full support. Obviously, yeah, we talked about the men, but just want to say, keep doing what you're doing, keep growing, spreading the word, keep getting other sisters to come in there and do their thing. So shouts out to them.
Shout out to them. Love it. And with that being said, this is a Latin Wealth podcast. If you guys can do us a huge favor, share this episode with just one other person. We're not going to make you share it with five people. I know Jeremiah wants you to do that, but just one person. That's it. Hit those three dots, hit the share button, text it to somebody, drop it in a Facebook group message, whatever you have to do. This is great information. Share this with one other person that needs to hear this episode. It's the Latin Waltz family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.